to build a app that's going to have a list that's going to save data, and we're going to call it bucket list. So that's going just to be like a list of all the things that we want to do in our life, just as an example. So to start off with, let's create a new Xcode project. And we're going to use an iOS app as standard. I'm going to call this bucket list. And I am going to need core data enabled. That's going to load some content for me. So I'm going to turn off that side view, and the first thing I'm going to do is adjust my bucket list content. So at the moment we have got a timestamp that's being saved, so I'm going to replace that with a name as a string, and I'm going to give it a complete, and it's just going to be a Boolean, a true false. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do build, or if you hold down this you can actually then test or run. And it will throw some errors, and I'm actually looking for those errors, and the first error will be in the persistence file. There it is. And the reason why we have an error is because we've changed this new item's timestamp to a name. So let's call this bucket list item. And then we're also going to need a completed, and I'm going to go false. So they're not going to be complete, and we have a name for each of them. So I'm going to go build again, or Command B, and that's going to be fine with this error. So now we can jump to our content view. Everything else is going to happen in the content view, so I can close off that little sidebar. I can make this a bit wider. So the first thing that I'm going to look for is my sort descriptors. It's sorting by timestamp, so I'm going to sort by name. Ascending means it's going to go alphabetically, so that's good. Then I'm going to have the navigation link. I'm actually going to get rid of all of this for each, and I'm going to replace it with text item name. Now, when we add a new item, we're going to need to input a name for it. And it's ready to go, but we don't have any preview content, so we are going to have to use the canvas after all. So that's a good sign. So the first thing I'm going to do, this list looks kind of empty, so at the top here, let's change a few things. So the first thing I'm going to do is select an item. I don't really want that, so I'm going to delete that. Where that's sat, I'm going to go navigation title. And I'm going to give it some text. So this is going to be bucket list, and that will show up at the top here. There it is. And just to be fun, I'm going to add an emoji for a bucket. And it's one of my first ones anyway. And so then I've got like a nice little bucket. Now the other thing I've noticed at the top, we've got an edit button. That's fine, that can stay, but the plus button I want to get rid of. So this toolbar item, add item, I'm going to delete that as well. And the line that it was on. And so again, it might take a second. There it goes. So it's gone. Now, the other thing that I want to look at is for each of these items, I want to have put it in a horizontal stack. Oops. And I want to move my name, cut and paste it in here. And before the name, I want to say, I want to put an image with a system name of circle. So that's going to put a circle before each of those, assuming that they're not complete. There it is. Wonderful. From here, what we're going to do, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to add like a section. This is going to be called my bucket list. And I'm going to move my for each, including the on delete. That's really important. I'm going to cut and paste that into my section. So now it'll kind of sit in a subsection. There it goes. And the reason I want to do that is because now I can say for each of those items, if the item.complete, so if the item is complete, I'm going to show it in my bucket list. Now that's not quite right. If the item is complete, I don't want to see it in the bucket list. If it is not complete, it will show up in the bucket list. And you can see how it updated because I don't have any items that are complete. So then what I can do with this section, including the, well basically if we wanted to collapse this, like this, then then I can copy this section and paste it here. Now on that, with the code folding, if you haven't got that, you can just go up to Xcode and Preferences, and then you can go to Text Editing and your Code Folding ribbon. You need to select that. That will enable you to fold like that. Okay, so this section is going to be like completed items or tasks that we've done. And if the item is completed, I want it on this list. And to mark that it is completed, I'm going to be using a circle.fill. So it's going to be a full black circle there. And you can still delete it. So that's pretty much that done for those two sections. Next, I'm going to add, outside of a section, so it's going to be sit right under the title here, a horizontal stack. And this is going to hold the method, I suppose, the function to add a new item to this list. So to begin with, I'm going to make it look familiar like the other items, and I'm going to use this image. I'm going to copy and paste that into my horizontal stack, and it should appear here. And I'm going to, there it is, and I'm going to need a text field. The text field allows the user to put something into here. So to begin with, I'm going to give this like a default value, and that default value is going to be add a new item. Add a new item. And we're going to have the text that it's going to store is going to be in the new item name. I'm going to resume my preview, which forces it to update. So this text that the user puts into this field will be saved in this new item name variable, and we can use it later on when we add it. There it is. The last thing I need is a button, and that's going to basically save. This has to be in those squiggly brackets, and then we're going to have a image, system name, and I'm going to go for plus. So it's going to have like a little plus on this side here. And when you click on that, it's going to pull that string that's saved here, and it's going to put it in here with this name, and it's going to make every new item that we add incomplete. It's going to add it to the My Bucket list rather than to the bottom list that you can't see because my recording is there, my completed items. So it's not going to add it to the completed items for now. Okay, so let's build and run. And we should be able to add a new item to our list. So I've already got one, so I'll delete that one. So let's add an item, walk the dog. Hit the plus, and there it is. Now we can't actually move that to completed item, so that's the next thing. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to modify this add item function, and I'm going to look for the item name and the completeness. As a string, and then completed as a boolean, or even just call it complete. And instead of using this new item name each time, I'm going to pass in the name and the complete status when I add my item. That, when I build it, will cause some problems because our item don't yet have these name and complete. So the name is the new item name. And the complete is false when we add a new item. So every time we add a new item, it's going to be false. So that still works the same way, but now we have our add item is slightly adjusted. So let's create another function. This is going to be private as well because I'm only using it in the one interface. It's best practice. And we're going to say update item. And we're going to need to know what item we're handling. So I'm going to call it item. Like that, and I'm just going to build because that's going to get rid of that error for me. And so what we're going to do, we're going to call this once we tap on one of these items. So to do that, I'm going to go up to the list, my bucket list. I'm going to find the horizontal stack, and I'm going to add a button. And the action is always between these squiggly brackets, and we're going to say update item, and the item we're looking for is this item in this array goes in here. Then I'm going to open my squiggly brackets, and I'm going to cut and paste my horizontal stack in here. So that's ready to go, and I'm just going to copy this and go down. Remember to do your completed items as well. And I'm going to replace this H stack. Remember, I've got circle.fill here, so I just have to update this to fill. Now the other thing is, because these buttons, if I run this now, it'll call this function, but it doesn't actually have anything happening yet. But what I really wanted to show you is every button defaults to a blue foreground color, which is not what we want. So what we're going to do, this horizontal stack, dot foreground color, dot primary. And the reason we use primary and not black is because if we're in dark mode, it's not actually black. So again, I'm going to replace that in my bucket list and completed items and run again. And you'll see, so we've still got the same functionality to add an item, but now walk the dog and I tap on it and you can see it responds as a button. So my last thing that I'm going to do is use this update function, update item. So when we update an item, it's a little bit more complicated because we're saving data. We have to remove the first item and then add the item back into the second list. So 1, remove original, and then 2, add back in as not complete or complete, like, so we're swapping it around. Okay, so when we remove the original item, I'm just going to look for anything with the same name and delete all of them that occur with the same name, which is a little bit aggressive, I suppose. So if we go items.filter, and I'm looking for anything that has the name matches the item.name, view context, and I'm going to use kind of the same, actually let's go for each. So I'm going to use something similar to here. So there's view context delete. So I'm just going to copy that and then paste that in here. So that's going to delete every item that has the same name. And I'm going to build again because that will hopefully get rid of that error for us. Fantastic. And now we add it back as complete. So that's as simple as using the add item, and the name, we can use this item.name, and the complete is going to be this item.complete, but remember we're swapping it in the other list, so we're going to use an exclamation point. That's pretty much it. And we have an optional type string for our item, which I know is not optional because even when it's blank, it's still actually got a string value. So I know that we're fine there. Now the last thing I forgot to do is when we add an item, so I'll show you what I mean. So when we add an item to our list, unfortunately it doesn't clear that add item. So now walk the dog, I can mark it as complete and incomplete, and I can add a new one, complete this video. And I can hit the plus and it'll come up here, but see how it doesn't clear this form? That gets a little bit annoying for the user. So what I'm going to do with the add item, after the do try catch, I'm going to go down here and then say new item name is going to set back to blank string. So now when I run it, and again remember that's just our preview, this is actually the real data. And you can see here it is. So I've walked the dog today. So then now when I add an item, assign and a task, now it goes to blank. So that gives me better feedback as a user. And that's all persistent, so that's actually saving.